Good morning, everybody. This is a live extreme weather briefing with a ton to talk about, including this snowstorm that has arrived in Colorado. And we've got a heavy snow band from about the Red River Lakes area, east of Red Feather Lakes area, east of Steamboat, and that extends all the way to the north of Fort Collins, along the Wyoming-Colorado border, even up to portions of Cheyenne, and then into the southwestern Nebraska Panhandle through the beautiful Pine Bluffs, Wyoming area. But this is the heaviest snow band so far, and this is actually streaming all the way across the divide. This is caused by upper-level jet dynamics that are absolutely extreme right now, as I'll show you with the models a little bit later. But I'm about to head north on I-25 to intercept this band, stream it live for you guys, and hopefully this precipitation is helping out with firefighting efforts. That's at least what should happen with up to 2 feet of snow falling over the Colorado Front Range, including those areas impacted by the wildfires. Estes Park has been saved by the heroic efforts of firefighters, keeping most of that fire into Rocky Mountain National Park. A couple beautiful areas, though, near Moraine Park there definitely had some damage, and extensive damage throughout Rocky Mountain National Park from the East Troublesome Fire. But at least we didn't have those massive explosions of the pyrocumulus clouds yesterday that we saw in previous days. And likely that's because of that cloud cover that came in, some higher relative humidities that came in the mid and upper parts of the troposphere, even some showers that were producing some virga, even some precipitation that was reaching the ground definitely helped out. I think the static stability matters as well, the lapse rates above the fires, and definitely a couple days ago when that firestorm came in to Grand Lake, that's when that was absolutely maximized. So this snowfall is definitely very welcome, to say the least. And you can see these winter storm warnings across the Front Range. I think there's going to be a lot more snow than is being officially forecast, including for the Denver area, especially across the foothills, Fort Collins area, out toward Greeley. Anywhere in this band is going to get hammered by a couple feet of snow. And I think that heavy snow is going to settle in down near the I-70 corridor. The southern mountains are also going to get hammered. And we're going to take a look at these snow maps as well that the models are showing first. Right now, we'll just cut right to the business. These are the snow maps. This is the 6C GFS here, and look at those totals just dominating. And the GFS also shows that Southern Plains blizzard to materialize, and you can see that blizzard across the panhandles here from east central New Mexico, northwestern Texas panhandle, even into southwestern Kansas. In fact, it even has Dodge City getting 1.5 feet of snow, the 6C GFS. It has Denver getting close to a foot. A lot of snow, though, across the foothills. Cheyenne even getting 1.5 feet. The grand winter being down here in the southern mountains of Colorado through Raton Pass down into northeastern New Mexico. Kind of a combination of the jet dynamics. That system closes off to the south of the Four Corners area. You get prolonged upslope across northeastern New Mexico. And then as the system slowly ejects, it's going to spread out a deformation band. Could even get some blizzard conditions. Some of the models are showing a big-time ice storm across parts of the southern plains. We'll have to keep an eye out as Zeta comes in across the northern Yucatan into the Gulf of Mexico, then into the central Gulf Coast, likely as a Category 1 hurricane. And Zeta has intensified into a tropical storm overnight in the western Caribbean, and the new models are now showing Zeta to pass over Cancun as a Category 1 hurricane on Monday night, strengthening a bit in the Gulf of Mexico, and then heading toward Mississippi, Alabama coastline, probably as a weakening storm, as a tropical storm, but we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But first, we got snow maps to cover. Here is the NAM, which also shows a big-time snow event across the Colorado Rockies. The NAM doesn't like the Southern Plains blizzard as much. This is probably a more realistic scenario for the Southern Plains, and the GFS is showing several inches of snow, still very impactful across the Texas Panhandle. And this is actually I'm drawing on the European right now, but here is the NAM, and it really weakens the Southern Plains blizzard. This only goes out to about 84 hours. It's possible that snow falls outside of that window, but the NAM has the Colorado foothills and Rockies down into northern New Mexico getting absolutely blasted. Fort Collins getting 14 to 16 inches, a little bit less in Denver, down near the I-70 corridor, but the foothills getting hammered, including the mountains up here, 10 to 20 inches of snow, and that's where those fires are happening. The Mullen Fire, Cameron Peak, East Troublesome Fire, even the Williams Fork Fire that had a flare-up yesterday will be getting a lot of snow, and I'm going to be streaming live here shortly, covering this snowfall. The European model is less aggressive with the snowfall in the mountains, has a little bit less, mostly the southern mountains getting hammered. But based on radar trends this morning, it seems like the GFS and the NAM are right on with this band from Red Feather Lakes through Fort Collins into southeastern Wyoming. Probably getting more of a max, I would say 10 to 16 inches of snow. 2 feet though in the higher terrain across the mountains. The European model doesn't seem to have as much of a handle on that band overall. It does show the Southern Plains blizzard materializing, but nothing like the 6Z GFS showing 14 to 18 inches across portions of the Southern Plains. This is likely a more believable scenario for that ejection of that cold upper low. And so now we're going to bypass the snow maps and take a look at the models. And you should do this the other order. You should look at the models first and then look at the snow maps. But this is the NAM right here, and this is our system that's bringing this big time snowfall. This is the initialization at 6Z. The 12Z NAM is coming out. You can take a look at that as well. This is 12Z this morning, and you can see this jet dynamics here. Major vorticity advection happening. This is the vortmax here over the northern Rockies. It's sliding southeast, so you're getting positive vorticity advection that's breaking out that heavy band of snow. You're also getting some jet dynamics here as well. Looks like a jet streak out ahead of this trough as well. Likely getting some entrance region action, some uplift, further intensifying that band. And that band's going to slide down to the I-70 corridor as we go through the next 3 or 4 hours. Midday into the afternoon hours, that heavy snow will slide down into Denver, foothills, east. You can see this little lobe, this cutoff system off Southern California. That becomes irrelevant basically as this system dominates, continues to increase its amplitude as it slides southeast. Eventually it closes off down south of the Four Corners region, and then this just becomes a little jet streak around the southern side of this trough. And actually this dominates, this vortmax begins to dominate. So this is 18Z Sunday, close to midday today. And that jet dynamics, major vorticity advection slides down to the I-70 corridor, persists though across northern Colorado. So that band up there from Red Feather Lakes through Fort Collins through near Cheyenne, south of Cheyenne to the Nebraska Panhandle is going to be very persistent through the day today, through the afternoon. I expect another band though to develop down near I-70 ahead of this vortmax, so this major vorticity advection. So there are many ways you can get lift during the winter. One is vorticity advection, the approach of these upper level troughs, and you get the advection of vorticity, basically the normal component of the wind with this vorticity in the red colors being maximized. These little streamers here are just showing the jet dynamics, the positive vorticity advection coming in. Another way you could get lift is by warm advection through a layer. And usually ahead of these upper troughs, you get warm advection as well. That's the QG equation is what we call that mathematically defines those different mechanisms for lift with these systems. And then you got this vortmax coming through the southern stream that's going to likely enhance the snowfall somehow. Most of the models show a jet streak kind of lifting northeast on the east side of this trough as it closes off to the south of the Four Corners. Usually when you get a system like this closing off over the Four Corners, it leads to prolonged upslope across Colorado, northern New Mexico into Wyoming, and that's the prime upper level pattern to get those big time snowfall events. And that's exactly what's going to happen with this system, except even a little further south, closing off just to the south of the Four Corners area. So by overnight tonight, we're going to be peaking in intensity tonight across Colorado with vorticity advection getting maximized, jet dynamics and the jet entrance and jet exit regions here, just a big time jet coming in. And then eventually as this closes off, you're going to start to get that easterly upslope flow that's going to dominate, and that's going to be through later tonight, through tomorrow morning when that upslope really starts to dominate. This is midnight tonight. System beginning to close off near the Four Corners. Still getting blasted by bands of heavy snow across northern and central Colorado and starting to break out across southern Colorado and northern New Mexico by this time. Monday morning. And I think they're going to have to extend those winter weather alerts across Colorado beyond Monday morning because this system is still closing off to the west of the Four Corners region by this time, by Monday, even by Monday midday. I think this is what's left of that cutoff system on the east side of this. Still big time jet dynamics across east central, southern Colorado, northern New Mexico. And this is just a NAM model. But it still has snow hammering the mountains here by midday Monday. Southern mountains of Colorado getting blasted. Prolonged upslope happening here. As this monster high slides a little further south, that should act to shut off the upslope by midday Monday into the afternoon Monday and focus it a little bit further south across southern Colorado, Raton Pass, those areas, north central New Mexico as well is going to get blasted, and eventually this thing's going to eject. And remember that the NAM model wasn't depicting as much of a blizzard, so let's go back to the GFS to see what that looks like. And the GFS has big time bands of snow across the high plains, northern Texas Panhandle breaking out on Monday. And this big time high pressure anchored over the northern plains there, eastern South Dakota, moving east toward the Missouri River Valley out there. And look at this swath of snow from the northern Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle into southwestern Kansas. That's Monday night. And then the snow really ramps up as we get big time Lee cyclogenesis down here. Northern Mexico, 1040 high over Colorado, according to the GFS. You're going to get a monster swath of snow, even blizzard conditions, ice storm down near Lubbock. So if you like winter weather, even destructive winter weather across the southern plains, the GFS is the model for you. Breaking out an ice storm across western Oklahoma by Tuesday morning. Icing event continues in western Oklahoma, maybe bleeding into central Oklahoma. These ice storms in Oklahoma often happen out west of Oklahoma City, Kingfisher, up toward Woodward, Enid area, often get blasted by ice, where Oklahoma City and the I-35 corridor, Norman a lot of times will be like 33 in rain when this happens. But the GFS then finally shuts off the snow by Tuesday afternoon here across the southern high plains, but not before it causes big problems. And now the operational GFS here is showing Zeta north of the Yucatan by this time, Tuesday afternoon, still heading to the north, intensifying there in the central Gulf of Mexico where the waters are still relatively warm. You've got this trough coming east, basically a cutoff low that's hardly moving out there in the southern plains. A lot of uncertainty with the ejection of this. Still far enough west on Tuesday night to not exert too much wind shear on Zeta as it's approaching the north central Gulf Coast. I think it's going to turn northeast and impact northwestern Florida Panhandle up there. Slightly warmer waters, and the hurricane desires to go that way. I think this trough, the influence of this trough across the southern plains is going to be substantial. And I could see a landfall Mobile, maybe out toward Pensacola as still a Category 1 hurricane. Looks like during the day on Wednesday that's going to happen as well, with this cutoff system still spinning out here. The interaction between these two systems. And this ice storm is going to be re-energized too on Wednesday by this tropical moisture feeding into this upper level low. Definitely a textbook 2020 pattern here with this hurricane coming in across the central Gulf Coast, injecting this cold upper level low with big time moisture and just exacerbating that ice storm up there. But this is just one model, but the global models are largely in agreement with the system turning northeast ahead of this upper trough as it's coming in and then making landfall somewhere near the Alabama, western Florida coast. Likely big time storm surge as well in northwestern Florida. So I've got a tough decision to make. The Surgeonator has been finished by Mark, working day and night up there. The live streaming Surgeonator is ready to go. It arrives tomorrow at my apartment before noon. But if I'm going to get down to Cancun, I'm probably going to have to leave tomorrow morning. But the Surgeonator is an incredibly important part of our science mission. So if the Surgeonator is not in my hands, I'm not going to take it down to Cancun, and I'm going to drive southeast, sample this blizzard, the ice storm, and then intercept the hurricane when it makes landfall in the north central or northeast Gulf of Mexico. That'll give me plenty of time to deploy the Surgeonator out ahead of this, get a good data set. I'll sample a blizzard on the way down. Mike Tice may head down to Cancun and then intercept the Cat 1 or Cat 2 hurricane down there, and then meet me up in the central Gulf Coast to help deploy the Surgeonator. But it's that time of year when a lot of times you got to choose between snow coverage, tornado coverage, or hurricane coverage, and of course I naturally am trying to cover all of it. So now let's go back quickly to this heavy snow band that's dominating across northern Colorado. I'm about to intercept this, stream it live. And thank you, Facebook supporter community, for making these live streams and live briefings possible and making science possible, like the Surgeonator sensor that we're finally going to have ready to go. If it weren't for you guys, that wouldn't be happening. But we got a lot to talk about with Zeta that is intensifying down in the Caribbean. Let's pivot now over to Zeta. This is on the Radar Omega app here. There's satellite. We'll do the infrared here, of course. So you can see that this system is intensifying, and it still appears to be continuing to wobble southward a bit, but eventually it's going to resume that west-northwesterly direction. But this decrease in latitude that you're seeing here from tropical depression, 28 overnight. Now it's tropical storm Zeta with 40 maximum sustained winds at 40 miles an hour. But the low-level center has propagated southward to be coupled more with this convective explosion and those pressure falls that are happening from the latent heat release beneath that explosion of convection down here. But right now, it definitely is intensifying a bit more rapidly than we thought yesterday at this time. And now the National Hurricane Center is showing Zeta to be a Category 1 hurricane over Cancun on Monday night, 75-mile-an-hour winds. A little bit weaker than Delta, but you still never know this area in the Western Caribbean with very warm waters. The shear is extremely weak across this storm right now, that it could intensify more rapidly and even come in as a Category 2 hurricane. If I can get the surgeonator in my hands by tomorrow morning, there's a good chance I can get on a direct flight down into Cancun and make it in time to intercept Zeta with the surgeonator in Cancun. So that's what we got to decide today. But look at this convective explosion here. And these convective elements are sliding from east to west, even a little bit northeast there. That tells me that the center is definitely within this convective blob, and definitely a vertically coupled tropical system from the low-level center up through the convection in the mid and upper levels. You've also got the high-pressure aloft. You can see the high clouds spinning clockwise, while at low levels you have this counterclockwise turn. Just a textbook development of a large tropical cyclone that's taking up a very large part of the Western Caribbean. This is a very different storm than Hurricane Delta that was extremely compact, had a compact inner core. That allowed it to rapidly intensify, more rapidly than any other hurricane since Rita. And in fact, it even went faster from a tropical depression to a Category 4 storm than Rita did. And if this makes landfall as a hurricane in the U.S., it's going to tie the record for hurricane landfalls in a season at 6. That'll tie 2005. Right now we're at 5 hurricane landfalls, 10 named tropical cyclones. That includes tropical storms. And this should resume its west-northwest direction, but as it's kind of getting vertically coupled a little further south in this track, I wouldn't be surprised if this comes in over Cozumel, a little bit deeper in the Yucatan. But still, most models show this intensifying as it reemerges over the warmer waters of the southern Gulf of Mexico. And the global models, the GFS ensemble that has a further east track, minimizes land interaction and has it over this warmer water in the eastern Gulf of Mexico. So this warm water in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico is associated with the loop current, a little bit warmer than the central and western and northern Gulf of Mexico, where we've had many of those hurricanes pass over that area and kind of work that water over, overturn it. That's led to cooler water temperatures across the northern Gulf of Mexico, near the shelf or those shallower waters. But if it goes further east, I think it'll be a stronger storm with slightly warmer waters in this area than further west, where we've had many powerful hurricanes and tropical cyclones move over. So I'm still banking on a landfall, likely near Mobile, maybe into the Florida panhandle potentially. But I still need to decide whether I'm going to intercept this thing in Cancun or not. There you can see the hurricane models that have shifted further west, taking it over the northern Yucatan now, and then recovering with that more rapid northeastern turn, taking it over Mobile, maybe the Florida Panhandle. These hurricane models are available on the incredible tropicaltidbits.com website from Levi Cohen. Love to see these. And then you can see the GFS ensemble. This is from the 6Z overnight. We don't have the 12Z yet. But those red tracks, those are a stronger tropical cyclone. So see how it's stronger further east. That's because the further east track minimizes the interaction with land passing between the Yucatan and Cuba. And there's warmer water over the eastern Gulf of Mexico in general with the loop current. And then these green tracks are a weaker tropical cyclone. Longer residence time over the northern Yucatan. Cooler waters as well over the central and north central Gulf of Mexico that has already had those tropical cyclone landfalls, Hurricane Laura and Delta, in a similar area, only 14 miles apart. And I think that these tropical cyclones have a desire to be intense. And so You definitely don't want to rule out these eastern members. After this system organizes with its convection and becomes vertically stacked, it could very easily take a more northern route. Steering currents are pretty weak out here, so there still is quite a bit of uncertainty with this system. And I'm still waiting for the 12 ZGFS ensembles to see exactly what's going to happen with that. And these are the intensity models here for the hurricane. And the ship model has it intensifying almost to a Category 2 on approach to Cancun. And then after it moves by the Yucatan, another re-intensification across the southern Gulf of Mexico. Not dissimilar from what Delta did recently, coming in as a Category 2 storm in Cancun. Most of the models keep this as a Category 1 or even a tropical storm moving over the northern Yucatan. And then still a tropical storm even making landfall in western Florida. But it's the Gulf of Mexico, so be prepared for a hurricane. And even if it is a tropical storm, it's still going to have a life-threatening storm surge, flooding, all kinds of problems. So we definitely want to keep a close eye on this. And it has, as we expected, as we talked about yesterday, that convective explosion definitely maximized overnight last night, as is often the case at night. And then during the day, you'll have a little bit of a waning of the convection. We'll have to see what happens, but very deep convection here near and on the south side of the center. These convective elements moving in this direction. These convective elements sliding in a west to east direction. The center is somewhere in the middle right now, even south of where it's been analyzed. But it is in the process of becoming vertically coupled across this area, and then it's going to turn off to the west-northwest toward the northern Yucatan, move into the southern Gulf of Mexico, and then we'll have to move in for intercept. So I got a lot of things to figure out, whether I'm going to try to get the surgeonator in time to intercept this in Cancun, or whether I should just wait for the surgeonator and then it'll be too late to get to Cancun. And if that happens, I'll sample the blizzard, drive down, and then intercept on Tuesday, deploying our surgeonator sensors in the path of this hurricane to measure real-time live streaming data of that storm surge. I'm charging batteries all day today to make sure that I have the battery power to make this happen. But it looks like it's going to be a Cat 1 hurricane, maybe a tropical storm when it comes in, but either way, there's going to be a life-threatening storm surge, especially east of the center. And it's possible this thing could reach a Category 2, or even worse, across the northern Yucatan. So we'll just have to keep monitoring this during the day today. But most of the models do keep it as a tropical storm, even over the northern Yucatan. And as it keeps losing latitude like this, that'll take it deeper over the Yucatan. So a further south track has a lot more land to go over, and that will lead to a weaker tropical cyclone as it moves into the cooler waters of the central Gulf of Mexico, and that would lead to a weaker storm at landfall. But we got a lot to do, and I've got to hit the road and start live streaming coverage of this snowstorm that has arrived across Colorado. It's going to have impacts, but most of the impacts are welcome because of the wildfires that have been raging across the Colorado mountains and the foothills. So definitely any precipitation is welcome out here because of how dry it is. We've discussed it all high plains, severe weather season, and monsoon season, how dry it's been out here. We knew this was coming, and there's so much beetle kill up there as well. It's a big problem. But we'll just have to keep monitoring all this weather, take one at a time, and we'll start off with the snowstorm here in Colorado with that band of heavy snow from Red Feather Lakes through Fort Collins up into the Cheyenne area. I'm going to head north and intercept this thing. So stay tuned, and thank you, Facebook supporters, for making this live streaming possible, making these briefings possible, and our Team Dominator Science. And I'm about to hit the road and intercept this thing. Thank you, everybody, and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. I hope you enjoy my weather reports.